Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for attending today. I'm going through this one. Marketing is one of my favourite subjects. A bit of my background is marketing and graphic design and a lot of business development and things like that. So I like this scenario I like to work in. And it's very interesting what some people put on their marketing. So, and what they actually think they can put on there and what they can't. So today's, as you may have guessed, today's webinar is on marketing and students' rights and responsibilities. So standard 4.1, 5.1 and 5.2. As per usual, this webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under standard 1 to 2.2. Following this webinar, you should hold a quality and compliance meeting, and at that meeting you should minute your meeting. And basically you can either hold your meeting while you're watching the webinar and then record what you've learnt today. And basically what you should be doing is looking at, okay, what I'm going through today, look at the policies and procedures in the policies and procedures manual as well, and identify, are we doing this, whatever's in the policies and procedures? If we're not doing it, why not? Is it because we need a process change? Or is it because we need to update our processes and how we actually do it? And that's what should be minuted in your monthly meeting, is what you've learned from that. So you should, and if you today identify any opportunities for improvement, i.e. there's something that is non-compliant or something that might need some amendments, you should complete an opportunity for improvement form and then minute that you've taken that to a meeting, to minute that you've updated whatever that process is. And you should also review the supporting documentation as well, and we're going to be looking at a few different templates today. So we're going to be looking at course wires, organisational profile, enrolment form. There's a few things we're going to be looking at. And we're also going to be looking at some websites and having a look at a few different websites and what's compliant and what's not compliant and what you need to be aware of. Okay, so standard 4 is all about provide accurate information to learners about services and qualifications. So it's all about your marketing and what information are you providing to your students prior to course commencement. Standard 5 sits in really well with standard 4 because basically standard 5 is how are you informing the student of their rights and responsibilities, and that ties in with the marketing because it's information that you're providing to the students prior to course commencement. It also ties in with your student handbook and what should be in your student handbook. Okay, so standard 4.1 is quite long. It sort of goes through lots of details, but basically the upshot of it all is there is key information that should be on your marketing material, things like your RTO ID and your name and the qualification code and title of whatever you're promoting. There's specific things around how you can use the NRT logo and the AQF logo. And you've got to make it absolutely clear where there is a third party recruiting students on your behalf. This is something a lot of RTOs are making mistakes with at the moment, or the reason why this came in the first place is because RTOs have been hiring marketing companies to promote their courses on their behalf, but the problem is with these marketing companies is they haven't been following the marketing requirements and they haven't, they've been promising services and promising goods, things like iPads and laptops as incentives, getting students into courses without actually delivering any training to them and things like that. So there's been a lot of issues around RTOs not actually providing the services and basically recruiting students into courses to get the government funding and then not actually getting them completed. So there's been a whole heap of issues around that. So now we've actually got to notify ASQA of any third parties who are marketing on our behalf, and it's your responsibility to make sure that anybody marketing on your behalf understands these policies and procedures, these standards, when it comes to standard 4.1, 5.1 and 5.2. And that you've got to make it clear on your marketing what is accredited training and what is non-accredited training. And then we're going to go a bit further. If you've got vet fee help, I don't think we have anybody with vet fee help, but vet fee help has a whole heap of other conditions on it, or government funding. If got government funding, you've got to make it clear on all of your marketing material what are the requirements around that government funding. What fees do students have to pay up front? And we're going to go through that as well. But it's got to be clear, no surprises when it comes to your marketing. There shouldn't be any surprise fees that come down the track. And you cannot guarantee to your students that they will complete the training. You can't say, I will guarantee that you'll complete this course, because that could be considered unethical, because you can't guarantee that every single student's going to get through the course. You also cannot guarantee that a training product can be completed in a manner that doesn't meet the requirements of clause 1.1 and 1.2, which is in your training and assessment strategy and how you plan to deliver and assess. And a learner will obtain a particular employment outcome. You can't say that we guarantee that you'll get a job following completion of this course, because you can't guarantee it. You never know what's going to happen with the student anyway. Highly likely it's not going to. It's up to the student really whether they're going to get through the course or not. Anyway, that's a quick snapshot of the marketing. So standard 4.1 is really focused on the information that you're providing the students prior to course commencement. The student must be able to make an informed decision prior to course commencement. So they must have all the information they need to make a decision that I'm going to go into this course. And then following enrolment and commencement of the course, there should be no surprises, no additional fees, no, you now have to buy your textbooks, or now we're going to take you on an excursion. There can't be any surprises in your fees. So it's got to be really clear and upfront to the students that this is the course, this is the structure, how we're going to deliver the course, where we're going to deliver the course. So we're going to go into that on your course flyer, and the student is well informed. And it must be really clear on the marketing what the student's rights and responsibilities are. So some of the marketing, so here we go. So the documents that we use for marketing is we have a course flyer that outlines the course, the outline of the course, including location, how much, what's included, the units of competency, all that sort of stuff. The enrolment form, which has the terms and conditions on the back that the student signs, and all of those terms and conditions on the back of our enrolment form is the ones that they need to be well informed of prior to course commencement. Website's a big one, so we're going to be having a look at some websites. As I said before, you can put all sorts of information on the website. You don't have to put the fees on the website, but you have to refer to something on the website that says contact us for the fees, for a breakdown of fees, because that wouldn't be fair with marketing with your competition. Student handbook also comes in with this. So the student handbook outlines the students' rights and responsibilities. And we also have an organisational profile template that you can use as well. Not everyone uses the organisational profile template, but I'm going to show you that one today and what's the benefits of using that. The other great way to ensure that students are well informed prior to course commencement is do an information session. So hold an information session that goes through what are their rights and responsibilities when they're at that information session. Okay, so the marketing material. So we have in our policies and procedures that all marketing material must be approved by the CEO prior to distribution. So it's the CEO's responsibility ultimately, so that's with ASQA. If there are any non-compliant marketing materials out there, the CEO is the one that's responsible. So we have a process where there's the CEO can sign off. They have to sign off on all marketing material, and we have a checklist that you can use to identify that it actually meets the marketing requirements. So as a minimum, a student should be provided with information prior to course commencement about all of the fees, including administration fees, material fees, so textbook fees, excursions, so payment terms including the timing and the amount of fees to be paid and any non-refundable deposit administration fees. So it's got to be clear what they are. The nature of the guarantee given by the RTO to complete the training and or assessment once the student has commenced training in their chosen qualification or course. And we call this the training guarantee. And the fees and charges for any additional services such as certificate reissue or reassessment fees. So if you're going to be charging for a reassessment fee, so some reassessments are really simple. Like for business, it might be, yep, you didn't provide enough information here, here's a reassessment, here's a different type of assessment, no additional fee. More often not for business, you can, it's up to you. If you want to charge an additional fee, you can. But there are more expensive assessments, like you might be doing forklift driving. It's not a matter of just giving another piece of paper out, it's actually having to do the practical component, the assessment component, and that can be costly to the RTO. So you're within your rights to charge a fee for reassessment, but it needs to be clear on your marketing material what that reassessment fee is and what occasions, how many occasions of reassessment are you going to allow as well. That's the other way you're going to go. But it's got to be really clear up front to the student prior to course commencement what are all the fees. And then what is the organisation's refund policy? Now, you don't have to give full refunds, but it's got to be fair and equitable. So you've got to make sure you've got a policy and procedure where the refund policy is fair and equitable, but you can take administration fees and things like that. Okay, I've got a little bit of cold at the moment, so I need some water. Marketing approval. So I was saying before that the CEO should sign off on any marketing. This is from our policies and procedures. So all marketing conducted by the RTO will be undertaken with integrity and accuracy, and it's the CEO's responsibility to sign off on this. Written approval from an individual organisation is to be obtained if reference is made about that individual organisation in your promotional material. So if you're getting a third party involved with your training and assessment, it might be, one thing that I used to do is we had an aged care course where we took the students to an excursion off-site to a at-home care store, and it was a store where you could buy or hire equipment for in your home, but it had things like assisted aid beds, wheelchairs, walking frames, toileting assisted aids and things like that. So there was all sorts of equipment. And for our aged care students, we would go to this site to for practical component before they went off to work placement. So they actually got to use the equipment before they actually went off to work placement. Great part about that was the students got some hands-on practical experience. But one of the other sides of it is we had to have a written agreement with them, and we had to do a risk assessment as well, ensuring that the students would be safe. So that brings in your WHS legislation as well, so that making sure that they're going to be safe on that site. So you have to have a written agreement. That just gives you an example of one type of written agreement that you'd have in place where you're getting a third party involved. If you're getting someone, I just had a question. Is it necessary to highlight the timeframes on reassessment? Yes, you must also put a time frame in there. So if you're going to reassess, you can say, and that really covers your organisation as well by putting that time frame in, because you don't, like someone might say, oh, you said you would reassess, but you didn't put a time frame in, and then they come back 6 months later wanting to be reassessed. So you can stipulate that reassessment must be conducted within the next 2 weeks or something like that. So as long as it's clear in your marketing material when that reassessment is going to happen. Now, a lot of what you put in your marketing is not just to meet the requirements of the legislation, it's also what's going to protect you as well. So it's like your refund policy as well. You can use the standards and the legislation to protect yourself as well. So it's not necessary that everything's the student's way, it's how you're going to protect yourself. And reassessment, I'd certainly put a time frame in there to make sure that the students know that they have to have reassessment conducted within a certain time frame. Otherwise, it could go on and on and on and on. So I'd certainly have a time frame. Hope that answers your question, Grant. So all advertising marketing material must include the contact details of the person. All advertising marketing must include the contact details. Of the organisation, not the person. I don't know why I've got that. So it should be of the organisation. I don't think the CEO quite appreciate being called by students directly. I don't think that would really work. But really clear on your marketing material, what the contact details of the RTO and who they can contact. So when you're getting it authorised, a copy of the authorised marketing material together with any approvals are to be kept on file by the CEO. The printing and publishing of marketing and advertising material can only be authorised by a CEO. So this includes when you might have a third party delivering training on your behalf. It should always be signed off by the CEO. Or, so CEO is ultimately responsible, can be delegated to another position. So you could have an authorised signatory that also can sign off on the advertising marketing. Got another question. Does this also relate to third parties advertising? So if yes. So if you've got a third party advertising a course, it might be a unit of competency from your scope of registration, it is the CEO's responsibility to authorise all of that marketing. So they should cite it. We've got the marketing checklist that you can use. So you use that marketing checklist to make sure that it has all the information on there and that it is compliant. So it's the CEO's responsibility to make sure it's compliant. Now, if a third party is marketing on your behalf where they're delivering perhaps a unit of competency or a qualification from your scope of registration, it needs to be clear on that marketing material that the certificate will be issued by the RTO ID and name is the issuing certificate issuing certifier. So they're the ones that are going to be issuing. And it must be clear on their marketing that you are the authorised RTO. So I hope that answers your question, Rachel. If it didn't, just throw in another one there. All printed, published advertising will clearly be distinguished between, so non-accredited training and accredited training is really clear. So non-accredited is something that's not on training.gov.au, so it might be a soft skills course that you're doing on communication skills that actually doesn't relate to a qualification or a unit of competency. It must be clear that that's a non-accredited course, and then and make it clear with what is your accredited courses, so anything that's on your scope of registration. You cannot, another thing is you cannot advertise or promote any qualifications or units of competencies that are not currently on your scope of registration. So that includes, you can't say coming soon. You're not allowed to say that. Nothing in written print anyway. I definitely wouldn't put that. So you might be doing in addition to scope. You're waiting for that to come through. You cannot advertise that qualification or unit of competency at all until it is actually on your scope. So it's got to be really clear in your marketing. I've turned up at audits before, and I've turned up at the premises, and it's an initial registration. They're not an RTO yet, and this happens more often than not. On the window is the qualifications that they're adding to their scope of registration. They're actually not an RTO yet. They don't actually have it on their scope yet. That's non-compliant. You're not allowed to promote any qualifications or units of competencies or anything that's not on your scope of registration. So we ended up getting signage put over the sign because you can't promote anything that's not on your scope. Okay, so marketing must not guarantee a learner will successfully complete a training product, can complete a training product in a manner that is not compliant with the standards 1.1 and 1.2, which is the training and assessment strategies, which is how you plan to deliver and assess. So if you say you're going to deliver it a certain way in your training assessment strategy, then that's the way you should deliver it. Will obtain a particular employment outcome. So you can't guarantee that they'll get a job at the end of the course. So course flyer should include RTO details, qualification code and title, the location of all training, including practical and theory components of the training. So everywhere where the student has to go to complete training, that must be clear on your marketing material prior to course commencement. So where are they going to do the practical? Where are they going to do the theory? The duration of the training with start and finish times. So what time are they starting? What time are you finishing? It's got to be clear in your marketing material what that is. The skills and knowledge required of students, so what are the entry requirements for the student to get into the course? Modes of delivery and assessment conditions, so how are you going to assess? It should break down all of the units for full qualifications only and then the single units. And it once again must include the code and title. Include all of the fees, so administration fees, material fees, and any other charges. If you're doing a police record check, one of those fees. If they're going to do the first aid externally from your organisation, what's those fees? Who is that third party? That should be in your marketing material as well. So if you've got someone coming in and doing first aid on your behalf, that should be clear on your marketing material that you do have a third party coming in. Any payment terms and conditions, including the timing and the amount of fees of when they are to be paid, and any non-refundable deposit or administration fee. Any reassessment fees, as I said before, and the course flyer complies with the policies and procedures. So we're just going to have a quick look at our template for course flyer. I'm going to share screen, desktop. Okay, so I'm just bringing up a course flyer that we have. So you'll see that's the full course flyer. You'll see we have the code and title on there. Duration, so we've got a few different, this is our template that we have here, but you'll see we'll have a few different ways of putting your duration in there. Keep it nice and simple, but it should be clear what is the duration of the course. How many days per week? How many weeks are they going? What hours are they doing? From what time do they start to what time do they finish? What is the training location? All training locations. All your fees should be up front here as well. What is your administration fee, non-refundable administration fee? We recommend 150. You can make it more if you want to. You don't have to just stick to the 150. Also a breakdown of the payment plan. So we have deposit, progress, midway, and final payment. Now you can also do something a bit different. You don't have to set up the payment plan like this. You can have something like easy debit or debit success, which is, we've just started using debit success for doing payment plans for our clients. Now it could be that they have a set payment plan on their form and you attach that form to the course flyer. You don't have to have it on the course flyer, but you can have those ones that direct debit on a weekly or monthly basis. So you can have, there's all sorts of different payment methods you can do, but this is one way that we've done it. All additional fees should be clear on your marketing material. If you're doing work placement, where are they doing work placement? Are they responsible for finding the work placement? How are you going to assist them with the work placement? That should all be clear on there. Mode of assessment is how you plan to assess, and what materials will you be providing? What resources will the RTO be providing? So it must be clear, all your contact details must be on here as well. You can only use the AQF logo if you are advertising a full qualification, and the NRT logo you can use for both full qualifications and single units. If you are delivering non-accredited training, you cannot use either of these logos. You can only use them full qual, both of them for full qual, and the NRT logo for single units. On the second page, you should have an outline of what the course is. So once again, code and title at the top. Any selection criteria that you may have. So sometimes we have things like they have to be fit, be able to get themselves up and down off the floor. So selection criteria might also be that they may have had to have completed another qualification at a lower level prior to entry into this course. You must offer recognition of prior learning. It's actually a requirement in the standards that all RTOs must offer RPL. You've got no choice. You've got to do it. So it's a requirement that you offer RPL, and then you have a process for managing the RPL process. On the right-hand side here, you should list all the units of competencies, and by code and title. It's good if you can put core and electives in there as well. And then we have on here as a disclaimer on our marketing, the RTO reserves the right to change the units within this training as required, and please refer to these other documents for our policies, full in-depth policies and procedures of each of these areas. and then you must make sure you've got your contact details on there as well. So that's a standard course flyer. We have another one that we've done specifically for childcare, just to give you an idea. Doesn't seem to be anything in there. Can't see anything different. Okay, so the childcare one, normally we have the payment plan already in there, and so what the fees are and what the units are and things like that. That was no good. Okay, what else have we got? This is the course flyer checklist. So this is how you identify whether the course flyer actually meets the requirements. So does it have the code and title? Does it include all the units of competencies, if a full qual, and as per listed on the TAS? The NRT logo is on the flyer, and if it is, that it meets the logo requirements. Same with the AQF logo. All course fees are clear and present up front to the student. Payment methods are in there. A deposit is less than $1,500 or a suitable fee protection measure is in place. Any additional costs, so police record check, other materials, first aid, you've got to be clear on your marketing. Cannot expect, the students should not get any surprises when once they've entered the course, and they shouldn't be charged any further fees. If there's any license outcome, it needs to be clear. What's the duration and delivery mode of the course? So how are you going to deliver it? How many days per week? How many hours? What are you going to provide to the student? It should reference to the terms and conditions on the enrolment form. Have your RTO ID, RTO contact details, and a reference to work placement if required. Okay. Just to see. This is the organisational profile that I was talking about. So organisational profile should have a bit of a background for you. Now, what I recommend for the org profile, what's a really good strategy is to fill this out before you get your website developed if you haven't already done it. If you've already designed your website, then that's fine. But this is a good basis for gathering the information you're going to need on your website. And it's also a good marketing material that you can send out advertising your organisation. It should have a bit of background about the course, who are the directors if you want to have that in there, what your mission statement is, what facilities do you have in place. This is our policy and procedure for continuous improvement. The required skills and knowledge of the trainers and assessors. You're showing is different to the marketing checklist on Unicorn. Oh yes, we have two. There's a course flyer checklist and a marketing checklist. If people don't use our course flyer template, we have the course flyer checklist and the one as well. Here's the marketing one. So this is mostly the one you've got, Rachel, for marketing. You can use this one as well. We use the course flyer checklist for checking, so we use the course flyer one for checking people who don't use our template, don't use our course flyer template, because our course flyer template's compliant. This one you can use for all sorts of other things. So yes, thank you for picking that up, Rachel. I did have it there, I just hadn't pulled it up yet. So the marketing advertising checklist. So you can use this for checking your website, your course flyers, your student handbook, your profile. It has a bit more. What I can, for me to get this checklist, what I've done is taken the standards in 4.1 and made this checklist out of it. So I've just taken all these requirements under 4.1 and then put them into here. So you can check them all off. So there's a bit of information there. Okay, so that's the marketing checklist. Oh, so this is the organisational profile. So I've got different bits of information. It's just a template that we've created, but it's really good for giving you a head start on the type of information that you might want to put on your website. And we've also, stuck some logos and things like that. So what Industry Skills Council or service skills organisations that you're using and things like that. So I've done a lot of the hard work for you. It's just a matter for you to use this template to customise it to your RTO. Okay, I think that's all the... Oh, this is the enrolment agreement form, but I'll get back to that. And we'll have a look at the slides. Okay. So that's a bit of the marketing material there and what should be on your course flyer. So this is the organisation profile, includes information about the organisation and the whole scope of registration. It's a good tool for when you're applying for government funding, or you might be marketing the organisation directly to a company. So it just gives a snapshot of who you are. And as I said, it's really good for when you're first developing your website, because it's the type of information that should be on your website as well. It assists with the decision making of choosing your RTO over someone else. So sometimes people will want to look at that sort of information to decide whether they should use you or not. And can be used for collating information to go onto the website, and should include more information about the services you provide. Okay, so website. The organisational website includes information about each course offered by the RTO. Now, you don't have to have a website, but where it comes into issues is there's some standards that say that some information must be publicly available, and the best way to do that is through a website. So one of the things that we've picked up that needs to be publicly available is your complaints and appeals policy and procedure and things like that. So they need to be clear on your marketing material and on your website. Should also include the course structure and delivery mode, training code and title, unit code and title, a breakdown of the units for full qualifications only. So if you're doing a full qual, what's the breakdown of the units? So how are you going to deliver them? Fees including course fees, marketing fees, material fees needs to be clear up in front. And payment terms including timing and amount of fees, and any other non-refundable deposit, reassessment fees and things like that. That's what should be also on your website. The use of the AQF and the NRT logo is huge. This is where a lot of RTOs are non-compliant because they distort the logos or they change the colour and things like that. It's actually stipulated in the standards that you must not distort, discolour or change the logos in any way. They must always look like this, as an example. And you can't have the AQF logo and the NRT logo closer than a centimetre apart. So you've got to make sure that there's at least a centimetre between the logos. Not written anywhere in any standards, but it is in the auditor, the ASCA auditor's guidelines that they should be looking for that. Okay. Neither of these logos can be used for non-accredited training, only for accredited, and shouldn't be used in the footer of your website. I couldn't find any today. I was trying to find a website. Normally I find them all the time, and I just couldn't find one today. You cannot have on your website the NRT or the AQF logo in the footer, because the reason is you might be promoting non-accredited courses on your website, plus these two logos can only be used in conjunction with the code and title of the qualification or the unit of competency, which you can't do. You just can't have those logos anywhere where they're not on the same page as the code and title of the qualification. Which isn't in the footer. So these are the proper logos that you should be using. This is some examples of inappropriate use of logos. You can't stretch, discolor, pull it apart, squish it. You can't do any of those. You need to make sure that the logos are kept the same way. And the best way to do that is to hold down Shift when you're moving the logo and go into a corner, and then you can move up and down on the logo. Otherwise, it will get distorted, and these are the sort of things that happen. More often than not, it's an accident when people do it, but then a lot of people don't know that you're actually not allowed to distort the logos. So really strict requirements around those logos. All right, so that's standard 4, which ties in very nicely with standard 5. So standard 5.1 and 5.2 is that the student is well informed of their decisions, of their rights and responsibilities prior to enrolment of training, whichever comes first. and that they've given plenty enough information to make an informed decision prior to course commencement. Also, prior to enrolment or the commencement of training and assessment, whichever comes first, the RTO provides in print or through referral to an electronic copy, so you can email or go to a website, a current and accurate information that enables the learner to make informed decisions about undertaking training with the RTO. So you've got to have it really clear and upfront in your marketing material what the student will be getting as part of the course. So standard 5.1 and 5.2, these standards focus on how we will inform and protect learners. This includes the information that you provide them prior to course commencement. It assists the students to make an informed decision about choosing which RTO they should work with, and it provides information to students on the services you are going to provide. Additional requirements to the requirements of 4.1, you should also include support services that you will provide and the information you'll provide the students to keep them well informed and protected. So how our material meets these requirements, we've got this little matrix that's also in your policies and procedures where it breaks down what's on the course flyer, what's on the enrollment form, what's on the student handbook, and what's on the website. So with all of this information, as you can see, we've got every single area covered. So what's the code and title, the venue and the location, if there's any third parties involved, who are they, do you have an agreement in place, things like that. It's really clear on your marketing material what your entry requirements are. So you can't enter them into the course and then change the goalposts once they've commenced. It should be clear what skills, required skills and knowledge must they have prior to course commencement. Okay. Enrollment and selection. The RTO is responsible for ensuring that they recruit and select students who have the required skills and knowledge to complete the course. Not like some RTOs who are advertising in shopping centres or going to remote communities and basically getting them to sign documents. And a lot of the students where this was happening didn't even know that they'd signed up for a course and that they'll have to pay it back in their tax. So it needs to be really clear. The RTO is responsible for ensuring that when they're recruiting and selecting, that it's clear to the student that what you're going to be providing as the RTO. Okay. Must be clear in your enrolment selection process that the rights of the student are clear, and you should be inducting students into the course and the RTO. So particularly for full qualifications, there should be like a half-day induction for them. If you're only doing a short course, because their likelihood of not putting a complaint in or having the issues that longer-term students, RTOs have, it's got to be really clear what are their responsibilities and what are your responsibilities in those enrolment and selection process. It's also your responsibility to induct students into the course. Even if it's a single-day course, you should induct them, and it should be just a quick rundown of who you are and what your RTO does and what's on your scope of registration. We actually have a template that you can use for that, which it's a staff handbook, and there's also a PowerPoint to go with that, so you can do a presentation on what are the requirements. Okay, this just gives you a snapshot of what in our new policies and procedures manual, we've got this support services process. So from the enrolment form, you should identify whether the student has a disability or not, and it could be speech impairment, it could be a physical disability, there's a range. And then how are you going to support the student? A plan has to be put in place as how you're going to support that student through the duration of the course as well. So that needs to be really clear. Okay. So you're going to have a range of materials that you could present for your marketing, but you need to make it sure it's really clear on all of your marketing material who's responsible for what. So if another RTO is delivering a unit of competency on your behalf, it should be clear on your marketing material that they will be a third party. Okay. On the back of the enrolment form, we have terms and conditions. I'm just going to show you the enrolment form now. So you see here, we've got the front of the enrolment form. Change that width. Okay. So on here, we have all the event data that you should be collecting. On the back, we have terms and conditions of enrolment. This is really important. This is what we are providing to the student to ensure that they are making an informed decision prior to course commencement. So it's really important that you ensure that the student signs the back of the enrolment form. So they're signing here to say that I understand my rights and responsibilities as a student with this RTO, and that you are allowed to collect their USI. They've been informed of the course fees and refunds, that you'll conduct an L&N assessment, what the process is for complaints and appeals, WHS, support services, and how you're going to support the student throughout the course. We also have a page where you can ask questions. This one's quite handy as well. Now you can ask these questions over the phone, or you can do it face-to-face. Really relevant for students who are doing longer courses, not so much short courses, where they can put in there, you're going to ask some different questions specifically about what is the student's suitability to do this course. Now we've got some basic questions in there, but you can add more. By all means, you can add more. So an example is, why have you decided to enroll in this course? So to get a job or develop new skills, things like that. We go a bit further down, asking, are there any specific training needs you may need for us to assist you with the training? And also offering to the student and getting them to sign this, that they actually know what services around, and these are the variety of different support services that you can have access to. And the RPL component. So RPL, what you offer with RPL, and credit transfer, and are you interested in applying for one of these? So, so we've put those in there as well. All right, so that's the enrolment form. All right. Got a really windy day today. I don't know how anybody else is going, but yeah, it's pretty windy. Okay, so that's what should be on your enrolment form. The enrolment form includes a confirmation that the RTO is responsible for compliance and also responsible for the issuance of AQS certificates. It also details the policies and procedures for complaints and appeals, what are the student rights. So it's a really important form that needs to be signed off by the student so that they understand their rights and responsibilities. This is one that will cover your back as well as an RTO. Each student is required to complete an enrolment form prior to, and the form must be signed by the student stating that they agree to the RTO's policies and procedures. Now, I've had occasion where I've had a student who didn't have the language and literacy skills to actually complete the enrolment form. So we had someone to support them where someone read the enrolment form to them and then confirmed that they actually understood their rights and responsibilities. So there's lots of different ways around if there are disabilities or anything like that. Okay, oh, so that's it. So, okay, so I thought I had one on, I have it. So now I'm going to have a look at some websites. So I'm going to go back to desktop and have a look at some websites. I thought I had a page there for websites. Okay, so that was the enrolment form. So we'll get rid of that one. Didn't have any other forms. Okay, so the student handbook is also the information you need to provide your students prior to course commencement. It has all their rights and responsibilities. So this is standard 5. Covers off a lot of information in standard 5. So you need to give this to your student prior to course commencement, and it can be electronic. So you can provide it electronically. You can just email it to them or have it on your website. Okay, now we're going to have a look at some websites. So I've just pulled up a couple of different websites here that we can have a look at. Just to give you an idea of what is compliant and what is not compliant. As I said, I couldn't find anything catching on. I couldn't find anything massively wrong with a lot of websites, but you need to make sure that it's nice and clear on your websites that the students will inform prior to course commencement. So if your main form of marketing is your website, you need more information on your website. Now, this one's not too bad. They're pretty clear. They've actually said, you know, what the qualification is and what the outline of that qualification is, what the expectations of the students to attend. So they're Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. until they complete their qualification, but it doesn't really say the duration. That's not on there. Can't see. No, there's no duration on there. So they actually have to have the duration on there. So that's non-compliant because there's no duration. So you've got to actually say that it's a 12-month course or it's a 40-week course or something like that. So you've actually got to make it really clear on your marketing what that is. Oh, here we go, up here. This is a 12-month full-time or part-time equivalent course, and students must attend a campus to complete the qualification. I'd make that a bit clearer because it's not very clear. Make that clearer on there. They've actually said what the entry requirement is, that they must have minimum English and numeracy levels, but it's not really clear to what level. I would use the Australian Core Skills Framework here, or the use some entry requirements to identify what it is. And I would also make it clear that here that they have to undertake a language literacy and numeracy assessment. They've said that they offer direct credit transfer, recognition of prior learning and recognition of current competency, but it just says contact us. It doesn't actually refer to a policy and procedure, which I would have that in there. They've done a breakdown of the course content. They've got the units of competencies here, said what the cores are. 15 units, 11 of these are core. They've also got to put the electives in. So they've got to make it clear what electives are as well on here. So that one's a bit of a non-compliance as well. Now, this is one of the main reasons why I picked up this one, is because they have smart and skilled funding. So what they've said here is Certificate 3 in Beauty Services is covered by smart and skilled funding. To be eligible, contact us. But it's not really clear what the fees are there. There's all sorts of fees around smart and skilled, like there's an administration fee. They should make that clear on there. All they've got is a link to the smart and skilled website. Oh, hold on, no, it's another page. Oh, there you go. Okay, so what is smart and skilled? Done a breakdown. Am I eligible? Doesn't say what the fees are. Put the fees in there. So you've got to make it really clear, because some people might think that it's government funding, and so, you know, let's get here. Fees are for the whole course. So from 2015, Smart and Skilled introduced new prices. No fees on there though. Your choice of training provider doesn't affect the fee you pay for any course, fee exemptions and congestions, but yeah, it's not really clear. And this is what you've got to be really careful with government funding, is you've got to make it clear what are all the fees up front. Now, it's got here additional costs. There may be additional costs associated with the qualification. Students are expected to purchase a uniform, so they're making it clear up front, which is compliant with industry health and safety standards. Students will also need to obtain their first aid certificate prior to course commencement. They should put how much approximately that will cost, and what is the code of that first aid certificate that they're doing. So they must make it clear on here what is the code and title of the first aid certificate, because there's a range of first aid certificates that they need to do. So it should be clear on there. So that just gives you an idea. This is what I do as an auditor, is I go in and have a look at the website and see what is the compliant, non-compliant. That's what I thought I'd do today, is just look at it from an auditor. And this is what the auditors will do as well. Here's another one. I liked this one because it was non-compliant. Well, not necessarily fully non-compliant, just some things that you need to be aware of. So you can see in the middle here, they've got all these logos. They've got a range of logos. For every single logo, now the NRT logo you can put there because you've got the code and title. Some auditors will be absolutely picky because it's supposed to be code then title. It's not supposed to be the codes down the bottom and titles at the top. It's supposed to be code and title. I have had an auditor who actually said, no, you need to move that code above here so it's next to the title. So you can have some pretty picky auditors there. But for all of these other logos, the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, VELG and ACPAC, they've actually got to have a written agreement with these companies that says that they can use these logos on their website. So if the auditor comes in, they'll want to see that you have a written agreement with those organisations that you can use their logos on your website. So you have to make sure that they are doing that as well. So, and that's what when the auditor comes in, that's what they'd be looking for. So they're talking about the Cert 3 in Children's Services here. They've got here, get latest pricing specials and coursing for here now. Your free Certificate 3 in Early Childhood Education and Care course info pack includes. See, that could be false advertising because it says free certificate here. Yes, it's an info pack. That could definitely be false advertising. So monthly promotions, full course outline, current course pricing, payment plan options, latest timetable information. Click here for your free information pack. Like, okay, yeah. Well, it's their marketing. It's not really a free information pack. Anyway, that would be a bit worried. Okay, so it's done a little bit of a breakdown. Click here to inquire about it. Breakdown. Australia's leading childcare course is a nationally accredited course, and you can gain roles such as this one. They're a bit, you can be a bit funny about that with what roles you can gain because you can't guarantee that they'll get a job. So that errs on, it's okay. It'll be compliant. Okay, students have up to complete the course from their enrolment date. Students can start training anytime, but it doesn't actually say how many days a week, course outline and structure. Has adopted to the qual. This means that you have only 7 workbooks to submit and complete with the course. The childcare course has an expected study time of 1,210 hours, so that meets the volume of learning requirements. However, students can work at their own pace and complete the course faster if they like. Ooh, don't know whether that would meet volume of learning, but anyway. The course is assessed through a combination of written questions, case studies, blah, blah, blah. They haven't actually said, I can't see, have they got any work placement required? Vocational placement component is in this childcare course. To successfully complete your course, you've got to do 120 hours work placement. This will help you. Okay, so they've got some information in there. To do, what is it? Okay, so it looks like they have some placement for them. There are costs associated with completing the required police record check, blue card, and working children check. They should put what those costs are. Should be really clear what those costs are. No surprises, as I said. You've got to make it clear and transparent. You don't have to say the actual price, but you should say police record check will cost approximately this. Working with children check will cost approximately this, if there's any fees involved. They've put a pathway in, they've put RPL, that they do offer RPL, which you must offer. And they've got certification requirements under a CEQA. Yeah, I don't know whether I don't know whether that's right, but anyway. Okay, so that gives you an idea here. Once again, they've got the logos down the bottom, so an auditor will want to see that they've actually got written agreements in place. So that one is okay, but it could have some minor non-compliances there where it's not being promoted properly. Anyway, okay, here's another one. So this is, I had a quick look at this one. They're doing, so if you're doing a business course, you can go in, see how they've broken it down and just said it's the type of training. So they're going into business and then you can actually go into the code. But see here you've got to have code and title. You can't just have the title. You've got to have code and title, and you can't have Cert 4. You've got to have Certificate 4. I know it's a pain in the neck, but that's what you have to do. Anywhere where you use the code, the title, you must also use the code. Everywhere where you use that. Okay, and it doesn't seem to want to go there. Oh, okay, so that's that page. Then you can download the qualification outline. Now, this one is, it doesn't say how long, it doesn't say where, there's no location, not even in this qualification outline. All it does is have the units, doesn't have anything else on there. This is very non-compliant, this one. Doesn't have anywhere where it says where to get fees. So you've got the units, so it says what units there are, but it doesn't say how long the course is, where you got to do it, what's the process for doing the course, what meets the volume of learning requirements. There's lots and lots and lots of non-compliances here. If there's any other fees involved, there's nothing about reassessment. So there's a few issues with that one. Yeah, it's a very, very basic one. Oh, this one has a qualification outline and course info. That might be a bit more. See, this is what they should have had for the other one. Course descriptor, entry requirements, pathways, RPL. See, that other one didn't have this outline. Fees and charges, so it's got the fees and charges in there and things like that. What additional fees there will be as well. So this one's better. So the first one was non-compliant because it didn't have one. It didn't have an outline. So you've got to be really, really careful that you have all of this information in there. It's got where they can enrollment inquiry form. Cool, it's an online form, so you can fill in the online form. Doesn't quite have all the event miss data in there, but you can do online enrollment form. So that's not too bad either. Yeah, so a couple of issues with that one. Format doesn't look good at all. Once again, they've got smart and skilled options in here as well, but is it clear on the actual pages? So their website, which is what I thought the other one was going to do. So they've done a breakdown of them in there. So look at the hospitality. Okay, we've got a cert 3 and qualification outline and course info. It should be really clear. Okay, so that's just the units and their link's not working. Okay. So these are the things where you've got to make sure that these all work. Code and title and these bits as well. So there's no title here. There's no code. So they've got certificate 3 in hospitality, but no code. So lots of non-compliances. So maybe I should contact this RTO because they've got quite a few non-compliances. All right. Either one of our clients. So I know they're compliant because I audited them recently. So I know they've got no problems. I've got the outline of the course, NRT logos there. To the code and title, so I was there as fast as I can to the code and title of the units. They've broken down what it is, how long is the course. They said it's an 8-hour course, theory and practical assessments. They're offering RPL, where it's located, so they said where it's located as well. So if I was them, I'd also have the enrolment form there or the student handbook somewhere. I don't know whether they've got any of them in there. But I think when they inquire, they get that sent out to them. Now, you don't have to have everything on your website, but it has to be well informed prior to course commencement. So it must be clear prior to course commencement what all the fees and everything up front. No surprises. So you've got to make it as clear as possible prior to course commencement. One of the requirements is you must have your complaints and appeals process, policy and procedure really clear, and it must be publicly available. And what auditors are wondering is they want it on the website. So you need to have a link to it. So this one doesn't have a link to it. Let's see if I can find another one. I know this one they're not actually delivering yet. Yeah, because they're not actually delivering that one yet. Go with okay, so they're doing a single unit here, fire extinguisher training, got the NRT logo there, said it's 4 hours, got a basic outline of the course. I know with these, they'd actually have one of the requirements for this course would be safety wearing. They'd have to be wearing closed shoes. And they'd have to be wearing long pants and things like that. So they're different things like that on the page as well. So I might have a look into that. Now, along here, they've got all of these other companies. One thing with all of these other companies, they need to have a written agreement with all of these companies that they can use their logos on the website. So it's any company, it doesn't matter who you're using, you've got to have a written agreement with them to say that you can actually use their logo on your website. So make it really clear. All right, last one. Okay, I thought I'd pick they're non-compliant. Okay, so this one here, we're going to go into courses. So see how they've broken it down. So here you should have business, and then the code and title of the course should be next to it. They haven't got it in there, so that could be picked up as a non-compliance in there. And then you go to the page. There's no code and title. Oh, there it is, code titles up the top there. You can apply there. So yeah, it has what is the qualification, it says clusters, so how are they doing the units, and then they've got their fees. You can fill in an application form. If you apply today, you could be on campus starting within 2 days. Holds regular inductions, so they're telling you what's there. Eligibility requirements. All students must be at least 20 years of age, so they've got an entry requirement there, and able to demonstrate that they've got elementals. And they're going through the process there. Got an entry procedure. Yep. Okay, so it's pretty clear. They've got different things in there and how to process is for enrolling. Got vet fee help. Vet fee help, you will need to score an LNN assessment, but it's actually not clear what the vet fee help. Okay, a request for vet fee help will be sent hours after your enrolment. If you're choosing vet fee help, this application should be completed and returned immediately. Students who have Australian Year 12 certificate, students are not electing to do vet fee help. There's actually a whole, they've actually got to send a link. They've actually got to have a link on here to the vet fee help website. So there's, whenever you're doing government funding, you've also got to do links to the website about the government funding as well. So there are some weaknesses with this and how they've put this together. No, it's not too bad. It's a clean website. It's pretty easy to read. But I think, yeah, it doesn't say what are the assessment requirements going to be. It doesn't say how they're going to be assessed, whether the computers are going to be provided and things like that. So that's the different types of information that should be on there. Okay, so that's it for today with that. Does anybody have any questions about marketing, and particularly about what I've just looked at there, that they would like me to answer? Is there anything that you've gone, oh, I think we might do that, or I'm not really sure about how I should be marketing on our website or our marketing material? If you have any, please post the question in the chat section. If you don't have any about marketing and you might have a question about anything else, I'm quite happy to answer those questions as well. So if you wanted to post a question about anything else, I'm quite happy to answer those too. Otherwise, that's it for the day. And I'm hoping you got a lot out of this session and was able to pick up some things about marketing and what should be on your marketing materials. And if you have any questions following the webinar, please do not hesitate to contact your client liaison officer, because they'd be quite happy to answer your questions. If you need any help, also always refer to the policies and procedures manual, because we have in there what is the requirements for marketing. I've got no questions, so we're all over it, which is great. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to catching up with you. Thank you. We originally had this scheduled on a public holiday, and I'm sure there wasn't very many people who were going to attend on a public holiday. I know in Victoria they didn't have a public holiday yesterday, but we've got a good attendance today, which is really good. So obviously everyone got the messages. The next one will be on the first Monday of November, month before Christmas. So first Monday of November, and I can't remember what we're doing next month. It will most probably be complaints and appeals, I would say. We'll move on. I'll be partnering, I think, third parties is what we're going to be doing. If I bring up the PowerPoint, I'll actually be able to see it. So thank you very much for attending today, everybody, and I will catch you in a month's time. I'm also on the road at the moment doing a variety of workshops, so I might see you at the workshops if you are, we'll go to the first one. If you haven't already attended, we've got our workshops running around the countryside. We just did Sydney and we're off to, I think it's Melbourne next, and we've got, Newcastle's next, and then we're off to Melbourne. Next month, complaints and appeals. So standard 6 and 7, so we're in complaints and appeals. Great, thank you very much, guys. Goodbye. I'll catch you later. Have a great month. Bye.